Hi, my name is Johan de Tooy from Wink Toolbox, and I'm very happy to have Tersh Blissett with me today. Tersh is the co-founder of Business Automation.
Trade Automation Pros.
Trade Automation Pros, and
Yeah.
the founder of Business Service Business Mastery. And I'm struggling on this. One of your other title that I noticed is Business Automation Scientist. So we'll dig into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tersh and Joshua have an amazing podcast over there. So I definitely recommend you guys go out there and check out servicebusinessmastery.com. Where else can they reach you, Tersh?
Honestly, tersh.co is one of my websites. I also own two HVAC, two plumbing companies, and one electrical company as well. So if you just search Tersh, Tersh, typically I'll pop up.
Okay. And how's it going, man? It's getting near the end of the year.
It is, yeah. Yeah. It's been a while since we've seen each other, but you came across the pond and hung out with us for a day or two, and that was the beginning of the expo show for us.
It was the week before the first hurricane. It was my first hurricane in Florida. So
is that the first time you experienced a hurricane?
It was, yeah.
Oh man!
But Helene was not too bad in Orlando. But I remember you got the last plane out of Dodge, essentially.
Oh yeah. Well, we had to fly. So Josh and I flew from Orlando, Florida, to San Diego, California, via red eye that night, and then Helene actually came up through the Gulf of Mexico and hit my house. And I was in San Diego when it hit the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. It was a wild experience because like my kids I have four kids, and so I have four cell phones and my wife's cell phone that it showed them all over our property. So we have 250 acres that we live on, and it showed the kids' cell phones everywhere. And also at the exact same time, I got a tornado warning saying that it was a tornado was coming through the house, through the neighborhood. Wow. And I was like, and then that was at like 4 a.m. California time. And I couldn't get in touch with them until 8 a.m. California time because the tornado actually took out a cell phone tower and took out electricity. And so the family was all fine. The house was fine. Nothing got hit by anything. Now we had a bunch of trees down, but it was just, that was a nerve-wracking 4 hours there to wait, however long it was to wait for them.
I know you guys always joke about all the dangerous animals here in Australia, but
we do.
I prefer that over the tornadoes. I mean, I was in Orlando and they're like, "Oh, this is going to be okay. Just make sure
you stay inside.
Your hurricane kit is in order." I'm like, "It's a hurricane kit, In any case, I am very glad you made it out alive and you're here with us today.
You too.
And as your self-proclaimed business automation scientist, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about automation. Mm-hmm. How does that relate to profitability? How do all these other things, people always talk about AI and so on. How does that all fit in? And I couldn't think of anyone better than to get Tersh on the line to talk about this.
Well, I'm honored.
Yeah, so just kind of out of that, like, let's set the scene for people. What do you understand? Don't go into too much detail, but just what is automation when we talk about it? Because, Wink Toolbox, we have an automation module, but people always, they never know what that is. So what what are we talking about here? What are the parameters? And also, what is, I guess, profitability in a business?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, profitability is the money you get to take home. So that's the number that we're all shooting. Yeah, that's the one we're shooting for there. And it's just because you have money in the checking account doesn't mean you're profitable. You could be robbing Peter to pay Paul. But that dives into, knowing your numbers and that kind of thing. And one of the things that I love about automation is using AI and automation together. And that's, really not having the human error aspect of things in your numbers. And obviously the first couple of times you set up an automation, you'll want to have somebody do some checks and balances on it, obviously, to make sure that, as well as I do, you put in a formula incorrectly, and then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, this thing's going to spit out perfect results, and then it comes back with something wild and bizarre, and you're like, okay, something's not right there. So I consider myself a scientist because I wouldn't say an expert. Um, I've been doing it since 2005, but I'm constantly
That's a long
testing new
time in
things.
technology here. That is an expert.
Yeah. Well, it started out with, and the whole premise behind automation for me is anything that I do twice, let's call it 3 times, I want to figure out a way to automate it. So the thing that Josh and I talk about a lot, whether it's on the podcast or inside of our communities that we have, is you want to optimize something first. So you optimize a process, then you automate it if you can automate it. And if you can't automate it, let's delegate it. And so it's optimize, automate, delegate. And that's the way we kind of roll with things. And that's how I first was introduced to Wink and really fell in love with the product because our mutual friend Dan, he was like, yeah, I know you do a lot of automation, you use a lot of Zapier and make.com and that kind of things. You should really check out this product. And I checked it out and I was like, okay, this is awesome. I love the fact that we can do dashboards, we can do these automations, we can pull in these reports through the CRM. So honestly, the automation, and I know you said not to go deep into this, but automation is honestly
I'm just a facilitator,
it's just it's one of those things where when you have monotonous tasks that have to be performed every week, it's just better to automate it if possible for me. And that's my personality. There's some people who really just like doing the button smashing.
Yeah,
And I don't like
this is
that.
why I'm an engineer and not an accountant. No offense to the accountants out there, but
Yeah.
but I'm a programmer. I wrote half of Wink, and this rings true for me. In programming, they always say as well, like just if you need to get something done, write the code first. But then if you find somewhere else in the code you need to do the same thing, maybe copy paste once.
Yeah.
But if you find a third place, then you need to kind of create a process around it and make sure that it's only in one place and repeatable. It sounds to me like there's almost two benefits that you were talking about. There is, and it's interesting because I always think about there needs to be a real tangible ROI. This whole scary, the robots are going to take all our jobs, right? But it's not just about replacing kind of a human element. You were really talking about accuracy there as well. Like there are no mistakes, and you can trust everything else aspect. Is that, am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely. You can trust the data, especially if you trust the formula, because there's programs out there, there's even CRMs out there that we don't trust the data. We just frankly don't trust it. And I'm not going to name any names there, obviously, but it's one of those things where you get into the program and you're like, that doesn't make sense, because I know in my mind that we did this much in sales, but on there it says we did this much in sales. So I don't understand why that's the case. It's situations like that where it's really nice to have a third party reporting system that can say, kind of like a checks and balance, say, okay, yep, that is an accurate number. This is an accurate number. And it's even better if you can automate that and pull it in from your CRM into like Wink or Zapier or wherever. And so then it's less of there's just one thing. I'm going to go off this tangent a little bit. There's just one thing of that just really irks the snot out of me. And I am not like, I don't run a $50 million a year HVAC company or anything like that. So I might not be the best person to preach about this, but having KPIs just to have KPIs just drives me bananas. And so it just creates busy work for somebody to track and all this other stuff. But once you've built automations, like, you don't have to worry about like having someone manually track all these KPIs anymore. It's automatically done instantaneously. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's my thing, is like having instant results is just a game changer.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why we always say, like, we've got to make sure everything is live always. If you look at it, you can trust it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're focusing here specifically on the trades, trade businesses, HVAC, plumbing. You said you've run a few, you've been in the industry for a long
Yep.
time. Uh, so when we talk about automation, what are the main challenges in broad strokes you think that people are trying to solve here? Like, what are the main challenges we're facing today that can be solved with automation?
By
Like, what
using
types of
automation,
things? Yeah,
honestly, well, reporting is a big one, and I don't want to beat that dead horse, but it's one of those things where it's like it's a monotonous task. Truly anything that's done 3 times in the period of, let's call it a month, like
yeah,
let's figure out a way to automate it, taking the human error aspect of things out of the equation. But not only that, time is the finite resource that you can't get back.
hmm
Once it's spent, once it's gone, it's gone. Automation is one way to get your time back. That's the one way that you can buy it back. You can pay and have somebody else do your job for you, or you can automate and you
And
know
it's not just for the business owner, right? I mean, it could be
no.
from the
Mm-mm.
tech to the CSR to anyone in the business, right?
Yeah, and for me, this goes with automation and AI. Like we talk about AI replacing people, replacing technicians, or replacing
Yeah.
CSRs and stuff like that. It's not going to happen. Like it
Let's let's
it
let's dig into that. What is the role of AI? You think in our businesses?
support and making jobs more efficient, making the CSR more efficient. So like even like let's say I have Chat GPT. I
Hmm
created a custom GPT within Chat GPT that is an invoice summary builder,
Yeah.
and it literally, so my technicians don't have to like physically type out a job summary anymore, invoice summary. It will just take, like, it'll ask you questions, and it's not the same question every time, but it's pretty consistent about the questions it asks because it knows what information it needs to get. And so it'll ask, maybe it's 3 questions, maybe it's 10 questions, depending on the response you give it. And then it spits out a job summary, an invoice summary that it doesn't have any industry jargon. It's on the 8th grade comprehension level. It's very easy to understand.
Yeah.
So when your homeowner is listening or reading this job summary, the invoice summary, they don't have to feel like, oh, this guy's talking over my head. He's using technical jargon that I don't understand.
Well, what are all
Yeah,
these line items? They're stiffing
yeah,
me. Yeah.
exactly. And
Mm,
so all of that is explained out very well. And as a technician, typing out's typically not our strong suit.
no.
It's like, let's just do the bare minimum. You needed some
And you're on a little
Freon or something.
tablet at best, and on a phone at
Yeah.
worst,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so creating that custom GPT for technicians to use, now all of a sudden it asks them questions. They can put in industry jargon. Okay, we used 3 pounds of 410A, and now ChatGPT spits it back out with, okay, we used a refrigerant that is called 410A, and it's measured by pounds, and we had to use 4 pounds of this refrigerant, blah blah blah. And it just explains in detail things that technicians feel like they say all the time, so they don't want to repeat it constantly.
Yeah.
And those are little things that just help speed up the technician's side of things, improve the customer experience because they understand what you're actually talking about.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get an invoice back. Like I used to get invoices and I'm like, oh my God, did they seriously give this invoice to a customer? Like, I'm embarrassed, you know? And then a lot of my guys will use talk to text, the speech to text feature on the iPads. And we have some very thick dialects going on.
As an
So
Australian, I know.
the things that come out of those, and they don't proofread them before they send them, or they
Yeah,
didn't. And so I would read things and I'm like, that does not make a lick of sense. And then I say it out loud. I'm like, okay, I could see why Jeremy said it the way he said it. Like I can see why it says that, because it sounds like something Jeremy would say. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it takes a lot of that, the mistakes out of the situation, and it creates a consistency of brand. So a brand consistency as well. So like you have multiple technicians go into, let's say, a commercial job, like they have a monthly maintenance program or something like that. It sounds very consistent every time a different technician comes out there. So those are the things that, I mean, just right off the top of my head and without
yeah.
going into a deep hole.
So, so why do you think the businesses in our industry have been a bit slower to adopt automation, just from what I've seen in other
Oh Lord.
sectors? Like, I mean, we work in the inventory vertical as well, and they're all on top of it. They run the whole
Yeah,
warehouse on automation. So why do you think it's been a bit slower? In the trades.
man, we're lucky that they're not handwriting information anymore on invoices. Like the three different sheets with you press through and you can't read the third sheet by the time they've not written down something and it's chicken scratch on it. I mean, we're just getting out of the age where 80% of the HVAC companies are no longer handwriting things out. So our industry honestly it's always been slow to adopt things
Yeah.
because, I mean, rolling out refrigerant. I mean, I don't know how it is in Australia, but in the US, the refrigerant, we're about to change for refrigerants again. And we had just changed the refrigerants. Well, I say just, it was like '05, '07, whatever it was that
Yeah.
we changed, transitioned
Oh,
from
we've got the ozone
R22.
layer problem, so yeah, we're well
Yeah.
aware of it all. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it was like, if our industry would allow it, if the companies, the business owners, the technicians, the managers they were allowed to, we would still have R12 and we would be
Mhm.
rocking and rolling with R12 for the next 100 years. So it's like we get comfortable in what we know, and we've all seen iRobot, with Will Smith, and you start talking about, oh, we're going to use AI to help run the company. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
no, that's going to take over the whole world. We're not
Yeah.
doing that. So,
And I guess it's a trust process. I mean, it might be a matter of control, but that's not really what we're talking about with AI, right? There's like
yeah,
it's
no,
small steps in the process that can be controlled, and in your automation processes, you can put like we often put little checkboxes for people like this is what it's decided to do, but still a human can say
yeah,
yes, go ahead with it, right?
yeah, 100%. And then, like, if you can see this thing that's on my wrist right here,
Yeah.
this it's just an AI voice checker. Like
Oh, cool.
it literally just can record a conversation and then create uh, full notes of the conversation and, transcribe it and everything
That's
else.
cool.
So,
I mean, when I saw you in Orlando, you had all these gadgets as well. So you're a gadget
yeah,
guy,
so
pretty
this
sure.
is the one that used to be
That's
on
the
the
one.
back
I
of my.
remember that one.
Yep, this is the same exact thing as this,
Okay.
but it does it a lot. It's a lot smaller and not as
I
obstructive. So
mean, next month is going to be in your retina, right? To just kind of implant.
yeah, I already have the
Look how
glasses. They're
excited you
around here
look.
somewhere. Give me a set of contacts with
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. So, I'm sure there's a lot of our clients, and people who listen to you and to us,
Hmm.
who are like, yeah, this all sounds good, but it's kind of overwhelming, right? They don't know anything about, if I don't know
Yeah,
anything about AI or, coding or whatever, it sounds very intimidating and
I can
overwhelming. I mean, where should they start? I mean, how do you get started with this?
honestly start small. The For me, uh, we created a list of, I think it's like 75 different simple automations to do, using Zapier, or even inside of Google in your Gmail account,
Yeah.
setting up automations inside of there. And here's an automation that everyone should have set up that a lot of people just don't take advantage of. that's setting up bill pay on your checking account. It takes, let's call it 10, 15 minutes to set it up one time. And then every month you can automatically pay your electric bill. You can automatically, pay your mortgage or your car payment or whatever. And that's an automation that you no longer have to physically do anymore. So like that's one of the smaller and more simple things, but it's,
Are
you
there any
know,
other quick wins out there? I guess is the question.
honestly, lots of them. I mean, let's think. With your email notification, creating a like anything that an automation that says if it says the word unsubscribe in the email notes, send it
I
to a
hate
different
those.
folder.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have it automatically send it to a different folder, and
Mhm.
then you can go back later and look at that folder if you want to. Otherwise, not worry about it. I will warn anybody that sends me messages, like make sure you don't put the word unsubscribe in your message because I won't see that message. I literally have
Yeah. Do you
I
want
have,
to unsubscribe from my podcast, right?
yeah. Well, it's so like I have an automation built out right now that AI actually responds or tries to respond to every email for me.
Okay.
So it comes in and it goes through a funnel and decides what type of email it is. So if it's I don't know off the top of my head, I should have had this already up, but there's 10 different um, categories. I use Gmail, then they call it categories. There's 10 different
Yeah.
categories it'll set up, or it'll file it into that category. And there's like a handful of categories that I let it to create the response for. But if it's somebody like for instance, if you send me an email, it won't try and create an auto response to you. It'll, because it knows that you're in my contacts. So that means I want to respond to you personally. If somebody's reaching out like cold email, then it'll respond one certain way. If somebody's trying to get on the podcast, it responds a different way. Those types of things, and that's all 100% automated. So now it doesn't send it; it puts it in a draft folder, so that way I can actually review it because it still makes mistakes every now and then. So I'll review it, and then typically 9 times out of 10, I just hit send. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's
That's what we're talking about, those safeguards, right? You don't trust it with your life,
no.
but you still want to get the benefit of that. You're saving so
Yeah.
much time, but
Oh
yeah, it's a
man,
tool, right? Exactly.
hundreds of emails a day
Yeah.
between I have 4 different emails that I check, like Tersh at Service Emperor, Tersh at Service Business Mastery, Tersh at Tersh.co. Like, I mean, hundreds of emails a day between all of those email platforms. And if I had to manually respond to every single one of them, oh, you could hang that up. There's no way possible that at this point in my life I could do that. I will say though, and we're talking about AI, and if you can't automate it, the next thing you do is delegate it.
Yeah.
Having a solid VA or a team of EAs, executive assistants, or a virtual assistants, um, game changer.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't want to hijack the conversation on
No,
that,
no,
but
but that's actually interesting. I mean, I have a executive assistant. Hi, Jen, if she edits and watches this after. But yeah, it's a real it's a central part for it, and
Mhm.
I'm a big believer in an AI. They kind of call it human in the loop, right? It's kind of the term that they use,
Yeah.
where there is still human oversight and there's human part of the decision making in there.
Hmm.
And we actually have that in our product. In our Wing toolbox, one of the tools in our toolbox is this, uh, scanning or OCRing invoices, vendor invoices and stuff, and then we check it against the price book. And there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do once you've got that data digitized, right?
Yeah.
And we use AI for it, and we train it on all the stuff. But nothing is 100%, like you said. So we still have occasionally a client's invoice will have missed a line item or something, or the quantity is wrong or something. But So we actually have people who we still have a human element to that. As part of our service, we have someone who goes and double checks
Hmm.
every single thing that comes through. Now, they've got special tools like here's what the AI said, here is what it is. There's some summaries. If all the totals match up, you don't have to check every detail,
Yeah.
right? It's really
Uh-huh.
quick. But it just gives that little extra bit of confidence and trust in the system because you were talking earlier. If you can't trust these things, then even if it's 99% good, then
You're still going to have an amount of
the
doubt in
whole
your
house
brain.
of cards come falling down.
Yeah, and that's so. Josh and I created a product here recently. I don't even know if I've told you about this. I think I have.
You
I'm
never
pretty
tell
sure
me
I
anything.
have.
This is our time now. So tell me, yeah.
So we created a program called Phone Tap,
Mm-hmm.
phonetap.ai, and it literally transcribes phone calls, and then uses AI to analyze the phone call real time. And then if it should have been a booked lead, but it wasn't booked, then it sends a notification to the owner of the company or the manager, the CSR manager, whatever, and lets them know, hey, this call should have been booked, but it wasn't booked. And then it tells you why. So if it was a pricing objection, or let's say like they didn't want to pay the consultation fee, but if your board's empty, then that manager can call them back and say, hey, look, we'll waive your consultation fee or diagnostic fee.
Yeah.
So because they got notified instantly instead of at the end of the month, or at the end of this time period, now they can go back and save that lead, because leads can be expensive as all get out. I mean,
They are super expensive. Yeah.
especially like LSA leads have just shot up. Like the price of LSA leads have gone drastically up here recently over the past year or so. So you want to capitalize on every lead that comes in the door. And then also the classification of the call no longer is on the CSR or the CSR manager. So like somebody doesn't have to physically sit there all day long, listen to phone calls and say, yep, that was a lead, or that was an unbookable call, or that was a, out of this service area, blah, 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 whatever. Now it's all done with AI. So talk about automation. Like that just saves time hand
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
fist.
I think you might have mentioned this because I think in
Yeah, we've
Orlando.
been working on it for probably close to a year now, but
Yeah. Wow.
it's
Well,
finally
we got
getting
to
to the
hook that
point.
up to Wink as well. But
Yeah, we do.
but it's interesting because I remember when we were together last time, we also spoke about very similar things that can monitor. There are tools now that monitor the sales calls and can give
Yeah.
feedback to your sales staff, right, to
Hmm.
improve them.
We
Not
use
to,
that. Hmm.
just and you were telling me in the beginning, people were a little bit, the sales guys are or the techs are a
Oh, they
bit
still are.
suspicious on it, but some of
Hmm.
them really see it and take it as a learning, right?
Well, it's a learning tool. I actually had an email with a friend of mine over the weekend, and he was thinking about signing up for this program. So there's a lot of them out there, but I just happen to be friends with the guys at Rilla. So it's
Yeah.
RILLA, and then you have CXC, you have Ciro, SIRO. I think it's the name. How do you spell it?
We'll need to get AIs to pick better names.
I know, right? But I just happen to be really good friends with the people over at
Yeah, yeah.
Rilla, and that so we use the product, and it if you don't explain it to the technician up front, it could feel like a big brother thing. Like when
Yeah,
you
exactly.
first put GPSs in the vans, then they're like, oh, you're just going to watch every move I make. Like, no, really, I have way better things to do with my life than to watch every little move you're making. Same with this. Like, this is a coaching tool for you as a technician so that you become a better, I don't want to say salesperson, because, we are salespeople, but as soon as you tell a technician that they're a salesperson, then they kind of like throw up, like, I'm
Yeah.
not a salesperson,
It's about how you
but
frame it, right? You can almost say,
oh yeah,
because
yeah,
you're
yeah.
not, we don't want you to be a salesperson. Here are some tips and tricks that get your deals over
And
the line.
it's the really cool thing is the more you use it, the more it learns how you win. Like, so,
Yeah.
and one of the biggest things for me was like, hey guys, I'm not going to look at this unless there was a problem. If somebody calls in and they complain about blah, 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 whatever, I might bring it up. Like I might open up the program, but this is a tool for you to use to become a better person, to become a better leader in the company, a better leader outside the company. Learn the things that work, and then you can improve the way you talk to everybody, not just your clients. And one of the things is, um, it, one of the things that I didn't consider whenever I started using this program was that it's also going to protect the technicians
Yeah.
from clients who might lie about things.
Yeah.
And we actually had that happen where a technician, a client calls in, she had 6 systems, all 6 systems had the 4-inch or 5-inch media filters, that the air filters that go in them.
Yeah.
And I think we charge $100, $120, something like that to buy the filter and change it out. If she has it in stock, like if she has them there, we don't charge her anything. If we're already on a maintenance visit there, membership visit, we just swap them out for her.
Swap them out, yeah.
And that's exactly what we told her too. And it's on a recorded phone call. So that's the other thing you got to keep in mind. Like the technicians that kind of throw up, like they don't want anything to do with this. They're the same technicians who typically will listen to that recorded phone call that the CSR had. So the CSR gets recorded.
Yeah.
Why can't they be recorded?
The technician be recorded.
Yeah. But so then the technician gets out on site and she's like, yeah, your office told me that you would give these for free. And the technician thankfully thought about it and picked up the iPad, looked in the CRM that we use, and listened to the phone call. And the phone call clearly said,
a summary of the phone call, right? As we said before.
Yeah. So. Well, at that time we didn't have the summary of the phone calls. Yeah. That's a new thing for us. But so then he adamantly was like, no, I can't do it. I'm more than happy to do it if you want to buy it. And then, because we're going to do these other repairs, we're going to come back out here and I'll put them in for free. Well, she calls the office and says, well, your technician said that he would order these filters for me for no charge and all these other things. And I was like,
so they were playing off both. It's like, go ask mom, go ask dad,
100%. That's exactly how it felt. And I was like, before I even asked the technician, I was like, let me go listen to this really fast. So I listened to the conversation, and like, he probably said it 6 or 7 times. After the second time of me saying that it's not going to happen, like I would have been irritated and ready to walk out. So he had way more stamina than I had personally. And I just called him and said, good job, kudos to you. I listened to the conversation and thank you for having the recording on too, because with new products, this as well as I do, creating a product out there, there's glitches in things. And one of the glitches that used to be in Rilla was the fact that if you took a phone call while you're recording and you hung up the phone, the recording stopped. So you might have thought it was still recording the entire hour, 2 hours that you're at the house, but it actually only recorded the first 20 minutes because you got a phone call. So thankfully that wasn't the case. All of it was recorded and everything. So, and I actually had an awesome sales call that I went on. Yeah. And it was a callback on our team. We had been out there 3 different times. I go out there, have an amazing conversation with the client. They actually are like, oh, we appreciate you. Like whatever you're selling, we're buying type thing. And I was like, no, I'm not selling anything. Like she's like, yeah, but like, we know that you care about us. So like, if it comes time to present something, let us know, we'll buy it. And I'm like, yes, I had the whole thing recorded. Well, come to find out, somebody had called me. It was a spam call and I declined the call, but it still cut off the recording about 10 minutes before I go downstairs to talk and do this whole presentation. And I was like, oh man, it would have been amazing to have that as some like collateral, moving forward. But it happens. Technology.
So it sounds to me that if you want to start bringing in automation, you need buy-in from a lot of people, right? It's almost like a cultural shift.
Yeah, you really do.
How do you guys tackle that for the people you guys help, to kind of bring automation in? Like,
it's one of those things, like if you can show that it benefits people before you present it to them, that's usually pretty helpful. So like, whenever we brought on Rilla, I had one technician use Rilla for a month.
Yeah.
And then after that, he presented it to the other technicians and then showed them the things that he learned from the presentation, because all the programs do it, I'm pretty sure, but I know that Rilla, it will track your revenue based on your
You can go,
talk
I got a
time.
bigger commission check this month.
Yeah. Well, and it'll show you like, hey, if I talk for 62% of the time, then I close higher tickets than if I talk 10% of the time. Or if I talk 90% of the time, then I get like my lowest tickets, or if I'm talking 90% of the time, if I'm talking, and so it
That'd be
tracks
good for
all of
me.
that.
I always, I don't know when to stop talking. So when I'm in a sales call,
Sometimes, that's the thing when sales coaching in general is like, sometimes you just got to let the silence do the talking.
yeah. So you kind of touched on this a little bit, and I'm happy for you to name other names. I mean, obviously, I know you use Wink, and we use Wink, but we connect to a whole bunch of other tools, even sometimes what people would consider competitors. And I think there's kind of two types of tools out there. There's a tool that you kind of use directly, and there's almost tools to build other tools, like
Yeah.
more like a Swiss Army knife, or a toolbox of different things. What are your favorite tools, and stuff that people might not have realized that they can use? I mean, what are your go-to tools that you reach for again and again, and you kind of
When it comes to
do these
automation,
things? Yeah, when it comes to automation.
automation wise, obviously Wink. And I'm learning more and more about Wink too. And the problem with having, how many companies do I have? One, two, like six
Yeah.
companies. And I'm not like, I'm not hands on with all of them, but I'm pretty active in most of them. The problem with it is I don't get to play with all the toys anymore. Like I don't get to play with Wink as much as I want to. But I have Edlin on my team, and she's becoming an expert on it, on Wink. But I would say Wink is definitely becoming one of my favorite. I've used Zapier for years and years. We actually have about, between Josh and I think it was something like 80,000 zaps that we run a month. And it's so many zaps that we forget what we are automating. People are like, what do you automate? I'm like, what do we automate?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's something as simple as sending Josh a dad joke every day inside Slack and on Facebook. AI writes the dad joke and Zapier sends it to him, and he hates them, but I love it. I love the reaction, and I love the fact that he just gets annoyed every time I read one to him. It's just little things like that. We have a whole like morale thing. Like I do a daily check-in 3 times a day at random times with my teams, all of my teams. And so like, that's how I can kind of check the pulse of everybody. And it's all automated every single time. Now the first post, and I check in with everybody in Slack, but the first time is at 8 a.m. every morning. But then after that, it's at random times during the day. And I don't write Python. Like I'm not
I do that.
that's not my cup of tea. Like, but the greatest thing since sliced bread has been Chat GPT. And I'm like, hey, write this Python code that creates a random time, like picks this random number, like 1 to 480. So then it delays, Zapier then delays by the minute of whatever that Python code wrote. And so, those are Zapier, make.com, which used to be Integromat.
Integromat, they changed a while back,
And then if this, then that. Now, if this, then that, there's certain things that some of the programs, like, so Zapier claims that they have like integrations with everybody. But I mean, they don't say that, but I mean, a lot of people say that about Zapier is they're integrated with everybody. There are certain platforms that they are not integrated with, such as Perplexity. Are you familiar with Perplexity?
No, not really.
So it's kind of like ChatGPT, kind of like Claude, but it's search based. Like it's really, really, really good at doing search. And
it's like telling an assistant to go Google something for you.
It is, yes. And give me citations. One of the things I found with ChatGPT is the citations are sometimes completely made up. I'll click a link and the page doesn't exist. I'm like, how did you cite that website page? Because that page doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I get into fights with Lexi. Lexi is my chat GPT's name, short for lexicon. And so I'm like, are you sure about that, Lexi? I think you made that shit up. And she come back. Actually, yeah, it's not accurate. Let me show you. Let me go back into this.
Yeah.
But
Let me get back to you
perplexity,
again. Yeah.
yeah. Perplexity is the exact opposite of that. Perplexity is very will search YouTube videos and everything else, and then give you the results back, and then you can keep asking it
Very
questions. Well,
facts based, and that as they say in AI, the hallucination setting is quite low, right? So
yes, absolutely. And so now there, and I might be wrong by the time this thing's published, but as of right now, there's no integration into Zapier with Perplexity, but there is in make.com. So if you want to build out something using Perplexity, you have to use make.com. And then there's other things like Reddit that has a if this then that has a good integration with Reddit. So if you want to do some Reddit automations, you'll want to use if this then that. And if this then that is very simple to use. Like if you want to automate your lights turning on in your house as
so if
soon
this
as
happens, go do that, right?
exactly. So like you can geo fence your house with your cell phone. And so if you get within like a mile of the house, then your front porch light turns on and stuff like that. So like that's and it's really simple to use.
Yeah. I mean, and what's interesting is a lot of tools that you might not expect has some of these things in there. You just need to go and turn them on. Like I know I use Hue lights all around my house, and that's got a geofence feature as well. You know, you just don't know until you go looking for them.
Same with your thermostat. I mean, we are an HVAC company here. Like you can have automations built setting a schedule for when your system comes on. The problem that I have is I come and go so often that it wouldn't know what to do. But you can actually set a geofence with a lot of the thermostats as well. So if it senses that you're getting close to home, then it'll kick the air conditioning on so that it's cool in the house when you get there.
And I mean, and this could be something you have your techs kind of communicate to the clients, right? As well.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone is like you and I trying to go and find this stuff out, but just adding
getting
that
like
value
12
could be really good, right?
You're getting like 12 AI newsletters a day. Like that's what I feel like. My inbox is always
they're going
loaded.
to the unsubscribe box, right? So.
They do. They do. They actually go to a newsletter box, an AI newsletter box automatically.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know you talk about Zapier, and I mean, Zapier is the big gorilla in this field, and to the point where we can actually talk to Zapier, we can initiate Zaps, so Zaps can trigger other things here. I think just where I can plug ourselves a little bit, you saying it's going well, is that Zapier and some of these other tools, frustratingly, might have 90% of what you need sometimes, for a specific software that you want to do. But, like Service Titan, for instance, there's you can do these things, but the one thing you want, I want to pull a report, act on that, you can't do that. And so I think where we come in is that we're so specialized for the trades. Like almost every connector is like some piece of software that's useful, like, we have ChatGPT and all these things, but we also have, Service Titan, some pros, ServiceMate, we're talking to Sarah, like all these guys, right? And so we can really get in there more focused in a way that really can tie your business together a bit better, especially if you're in this industry, right?
Yeah, when you talk to people who are not in our industry and they're building a program or a software out, they look at you like you have three heads if you ask for certain things. And you're like, if you're in the trades, you understand why we want that to be done that way or this way or that.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not in the trades, you might not understand completely why we want to do it this way. And it's the same for other industries. Like if you try and do the same thing in like a doctor's office, they're like, we want this and that, not not what you're building out. And I'm like, okay, fine, get it.
I sometimes hear concerns from business owners who start off on this journey that they are worried you might over automate and lose that personal touch with your customers.
That has been presented every once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
and mainly on the AI stuff, because like I don't know, I guess it's been 2 years ago now. We started creating AI generated review responses,
Yeah.
and they they now respond way better than I would respond personally. Like me, I would be emotional, good or bad, and so it's just very, it's empathetic, but the way that we have worded the prompts, they are not actually responding to the review itself. They're actually responding for the other people who are going to see the review response.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so well worded that I had a 1-star review personally that I deserved. We 100%
It
deserved it.
happens.
We
Yeah.
dropped the ball. Thankfully, the client was a long-term client that they understood. They gave us grace, but I mean, the review response that was given from ChatGPT, I was like, oh, I'm proud of this. Like I'm going to send people to my reviews just to see my 1-star review. Well, he took it down.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, like I don't ever want a 1-star review,
No.
but if I was gonna have one, like that's the one I wanted, because it was very empathetic. It apologized for what happened. It also thanked them for actually giving us the feedback, and let them know like, hey, sometimes people just don't say anything and they just go away, and I would much rather you say something to
Know
us
about it.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Exactly.
know about it so we can solve the issue. And it was the wording that was done was not anything like what I would have done. I would have been like on the defense, like just really mad because it's my baby that you're attacking.
Yeah.
You know,
It feels
it,
personal, doesn't
it
it?
does. It feels like a
Yeah.
personal attack, and it just wasn't the case. So then when people say things like, hey, I don't want AI responding to that because I want to be the one who does the empathy and stuff like that, and I'm like, just look at what they did here. And like, I so badly wish that I had saved a screenshot of that, and I didn't, because it's something I could use as a testimonial as to how well AI works when it comes to doing review
So it was almost
responses.
more personal, in a way,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that person, not
Mm-hmm.
for you.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
You had
absolutely,
to take your
100%.
ego out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, the Google ranks you, like they don't rank you necessarily on how fast you do review responses, but it is a key part of the
Yeah.
ranking aspect of, are you responding to your reviews and how quickly are you responding to your reviews. And so we put a delay in there, so it's got a 5-minute delay. That way it doesn't feel like an automated response. And then so every review gets responded to within 5 or 6 minutes of the review being posted. And it's one less thing that I have to mentally think about on a regular basis. I get an email that says, hey, so and so left you a 5-star review, and within 5 minutes I have another email that says, hey, this is your Zapier, or what is it, this is your Sir Zaps-a-lot, letting you know that we've responded to your review. This is the review response. So it says the whole review response, and then it gives a link if you want to change anything on it. So you can click the link and it takes you straight to your Google profile, so
Yeah.
that you can change it instantly too. So if it does say something goofy, then you can just go to it really fast and and change it.
Yeah. That's a great story. I really like that. And again, it tells me, if we can bring this back to the profitability thing, it's not always one-to-one measurable, right? That
Yeah.
I'm paying this for this automation tool per month. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm paying $100 a month for this, and I'm going to save $200.
Right.
Sure. But there's stuff like these reviews or better customer relationships, which, could really be, I mean, how do you even measure it, right? So maybe
Yeah,
talk
it's like
about that. How do you try and keep track of that your business and all your automations and processes stay aligned and stay in lockstep, and that, how do you review things to improve things ongoing?
for me, it's well, branding. Like, how do you measure branding? How do you
Yeah.
measure ROI on branding? It's that's one that you can't really measure. It's almost on feelings, but also, like, I had a really good conversation with Steve Cassette. He's a brilliant automation guy. He works for an HVAC company. I want to say they're in like the Northeast or like Maryland or
Mhm.
something like that. But he was asking me in one of the Facebook groups that we have, and at what point do you stop automating things? And I was like, oh, that's deep, Steve. Like, I don't know. He said, so we hashed it out and we had a little conversation about it. And one of the things that he presented was like, I stop automating for this when I'm just automating for the sake of
For the sake
automating.
of it, yeah.
Yeah.
You've got a problem.
Yeah. We're not solving problems. We just think this is a cool automation. And
Yeah.
so like, that's the point when you have to stop the automation,
Hmm.
like diving in the rabbit hole, because then you just start irritating people because they're like, really, seriously, another automation that I have to learn this thing, and it does nothing at all. It's like when I
It
was
doesn't
saying
really
earlier.
save time or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like another busy work thing, and it's like what I was saying at the beginning about like an ROI for an ROI, like our KPI. Like, what's your this KPI just for the sake of having this KPI? And I'm like, why though? Like, that don't make sense. Like, what are you going to gain out of doing it? And the same
Yeah.
with this automation. Like, is it solving a problem? Are we problem solving, or is it just a shiny object?
Yeah.
And that's, as somebody who enjoys automating and something that comes natural to them, like, I have to check myself quite
Step back
often.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
at the big picture, I guess.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'm aware we're kind of running kind of towards the end of our time here. So maybe if any of our listeners want to start their automation journey now after listening to us,
No glutton for
what's one
punishment.
thing they can do today? I mean, what's their first baby step to get started on this? Except, obviously giving Wink or you
Yeah.
an email.
Try.
But,
Yeah. Yeah.
other than that,
Um, honestly, like, go in, and if you have Google, go in and create a filter. If you,
hmm
and Microsoft Office, Yahoo, they all have the same thing. It's just called something a little different. But go in, create a filter that says, if it has a unsubscribe in the body, and also make sure you do this. I learned this the hard way, because if you only put, so keep, like, listen closely to what I'm saying, because I don't want you to make the same mistake that I did. If you only put in the filter that they have unsubscribe in the body of the message to send it to the uh, unsubscribe folder, or whatever folder you want to make it send it to, there are times when somebody will forward you a message and say, hey, look
hmm
at this, but you'll never see it. So it's a two-step filter. It needs to have unsubscribe in the body, but also it should say no reply in the reply section. So if it says no reply, or something to that effect, then
yeah.
it goes to the unsubscribe
You don't
filter.
want your assistant to try and show you something cool, or
That's exactly what
your
happened.
business partner, and then you
Yep.
just kind
Josh
of
was
miss
sending me
it.
these messages, and I was like, Josh, I ain't seen the first one of those things that you're talking about. And he's like, really? And I search on the search bar, and sure enough, there are a whole bunch of unread messages from
Yeah.
Josh.
And then obviously the second thing when you're in your email client is send an email to support@winkreports.com.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
us show you what we can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tersh, it's been great having you here with us. Any last thoughts that you have, or maybe just tell us again? I know you said in the beginning, but how can people find you and follow you?
Honestly, I'd be honored for any follows or questions, frankly. But if you search Tersh, Tersh, on Google, which I would challenge you to use Perplexity instead of Google. I haven't Googled, quote unquote, Googled anything in probably 6 or 8 months. And it's been very nice because I don't have to deal with the algorithm anymore. So just search Tersh, Tersh, anywhere, social media wise or anything else. And I'm usually the first one up there. Have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help any way I can.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time again, Tersh. And yeah, we'll get you on soon again, I'm sure. Or I'll come on your podcast,
Yeah,
and
yeah, absolutely.
we'll definitely have a chat again.
Yep.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you.
man.